Told you there were bigger banks.
You almost missed your calling.
Okay, so yeah, this video is going to be about why I've been buying Bamk and nUSD for the last few weeks. Pretty much since I found out about this project, it was just kind of a coincidence that I did find out about the project. Nobody told me about it. I just happened to follow some of the people involved on Twitter. There's some of the guys behind Hodlocker and some other interesting projects, RelayX. So I just happened to find out about it just because they posted something about it, and I just happened to pique my interest. Just the name of it caught my eye, and I clicked on it, and I thought it was interesting. So it's not going to be any financial advice, because we're not allowed to freely discuss these things. You have to preface that with that. Always make your own financial decisions. Don't buy anything because someone's hyping it up. Do your own research, check it out. So it's just going to be a video of my opinions about it, why I like this idea, why I'm kind of excited about it. Just a backstory. I've sort of been a proponent of big block Bitcoin, so doing interesting things on Bitcoin has always been something I've been interested in. And yeah, just anything new that's happening in the Bitcoin space, I try to keep an eye on that just because it's the dominant chain, and just anything that's going on in the Bitcoin space, especially now that I want to learn to develop, especially on Bitcoin. It's something I'm paying a lot of attention to. But this is just really cool because really what they've done here is they've made a Bitcoin stablecoin, a native Bitcoin on L1 stablecoin. It's not calling it a stablecoin, it's calling it a synthetic dollar. And they're backing it with Athena. So yeah, they're backing it with Athena, this other stablecoin project that's grown really quickly over the last few months. And if you're not familiar with that, look into that. There's a bunch of things here. I'm not going to do a deep dive into any of these things, just kind of my take on it. But yeah, I think there's a huge need for a stable dollar asset on Bitcoin, like native on Bitcoin. That way, when there's periods of volatility and people are trading and they want to exit out of Bitcoin because they're not sure what's going to happen, they can go into a stable asset. I mean, people use Ethereum, they use other stable coins, but then there's the drawback of having to go to a centralized exchange or DEX to swap out. Whereas if it's native on L1 and on Bitcoin itself, you can just transfer into that asset without having to go to a centralized exchange. And then if you're smart, transfer your asset back out to your own wallet so that if anything happens with the exchange, your money is still good. So it's something that's needed, but they've done something really interesting. They've kind of just taken the mistakes that were made by Terra Luna, and they've found an interesting remedy to the problems that were discovered with Terra Luna. And again, I won't get into the specifics of that, but really what they're doing is they're paying out interest in a meme coin or a governance token, whatever they're going to do with it. It's kind of unclear. They may add some sort of utility to it later. There's some talk of that, I think, anyway. But what they want to do is pay out interest for people holding nUSD in Bamk. And this project's still so new that there's still some uncertainty about how they want to pronounce it. People are calling it Bamk, just bank, and then it's spelt wrong. So I don't know. We'll see what the pronunciation ends up being, but I'm calling it Bamk from now on. Just 'cause it sounds better, I think. I think it sounds best as Bamk, but it's a little tricky to say. You almost have to practice saying it a couple times. So we'll see what catches on. But yeah, I think it's a really clever integration of lots of different things that people have already done, and just kind of mix them up together in a really clever way that creates this really smart incentive reward model for holding nUSD. And it's a model that doesn't need an incentive on its own. Like the utility of having a stable dollar to transfer into on Bitcoin itself. I mean, look at the market cap of Tether. If that was on Bitcoin native, what would the market cap of that be? That's what the potential of this project is. And I think a lot of people in the project talking about the project right now, I think that they're kind of worried that it's going to end up like Terra Luna and collapse. I don't really see that as the problem. I think they've kind of found clever solutions to avoid that happening. And again, do your own research. Look at the GitHub, look at the Gitbook, look at what they're doing on your own, form your own conclusion. But uh, I think there's going to be a whole lot of innovation in this space, and I think the bigger problem might be that competitors will emerge. But I think they are positioned well because they have the first mover advantage here, and the network effect that's gained from being the first mover in a space like this is huge. Essentially, by the time a competitor emerges or something similar that challenges this model emerges, they're going to be that far behind. And however wide the Bamk community has grown until that point. So, really, I think there's a lot to be excited about in this project. I think there's 21 billion is the total supply for Bamk, but 1.3 billion, I believe, has been released until the interest for nUSD gets paid out. So nUSD is paying out a huge interest in Bamk. I think it was something like 700% API. I think when I checked earlier, and yeah, I mean the biggest wallets, you should just take a look at them, see how much they're earning every day, every month, just holding nUSD. It's crazy. So, I mean, if this thing catches on and it just survives, it can survive being market tested. I think it has to survive some market volatility to prove that it's not going to collapse like Terra Luna. There's always unforeseeable circumstances that it probably has to survive something weird happening. I mean, there's always unforeseeable things that you might not expect. Countries might go to war with one another and mess up the markets completely. That might cause some unforeseeable market volatility that causes things to collapse. So, I mean, it's not a certain investment. There's an element of risk that you should definitely be aware of if you want to look into this. But all in all, I think the potential upside here is enormous. And I don't think the risk is truly that it will collapse. I think the risk is that a competitor will emerge that creates a better incentive model potentially. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting development in Bitcoin DeFi, and I think it's going to explode in the next few years because everyone's going to figure out that they can do cool things on Bitcoin, and then why are they doing it on these centralized exchanges and paying fees and going to DEXs? I think a lot of activity that's being done in the market will be moved on chain, and people are going to want to do that because there's certain advantages to that. And yeah, it's an exciting time. There's lots of talk about turning new opcodes on in Bitcoin and BTC, and I think a lot of this heads in a certain direction. So I just wanted to put people's attention on that. Make of it what you will, and yeah, do your own research. I think it's a cool project.